The Great Lottery of St. Paul's. In the year 1567, a royal proclamation fluttered through the winding streets of London like a promise of gold. Queen Elizabeth I required funds to fortify the realm's havens and build her navy. For the price of 10 shillings, a staggering sum for a common man, a subject could purchase a chance at a fortune. Silas, a merchant's clerk, stood before the tallyman, his heart hammering against his ribs as he counted out his savings. To enter, every ticket holder had to choose a posse, a short motto to identify their slip. Silas sat by the fire with his wife, Elspeth, debating the words that might tempt fate. 10 shillings is our winter's warmth, Silas, she whispered, though her eyes danced with the thought of the prizes. Silver plate, fine tapestries, and cold hard coin. Silas finally wrote, "God send a good lot to me." The months turned into years. The lottery, originally meant to be drawn quickly, was delayed as the state struggled to sell enough tickets. Skepticism soured the ale in London's taverns. Yet, in early 1569, the work began. Master Bartholomew, a stern official of the crown, oversaw the construction of a massive wooden stage at the great west door of St. Paul's Cathedral. By January 11, 1569, a thick, freezing mist had settled over the Thames. The drawing was finally to begin. Silas and Elspeth joined the surging tide of humanity, pressing toward the cathedral graveyard. The air was thick with the smell of damp wool and the nervous energy of thousands who had pinned their hopes on a single piece of paper. The spectacle was grander than any sermon. Bartholomew climbed the high scaffold, his velvet robes catching the gray light. Beside him, a royal trumpeter stood ready. The crowd fell into a hushed, trembling silence as the first notes of the brass instrument pierced the cold air, signaling that the Queen's lottery was open. To ensure the drawing was fair, the state chose 2 young boys, Edward and Arthur, to serve as the hands of fate. They stood upon stools beside 2 enormous earthen jars. One jar contained the names and posies of the participants. The other contained the prizes, or, more often than not, the dreaded blanks. The drawing did not end at sunset. It continued through the night, and the night after that, for weeks on end. Under the orange flicker of torches, the rhythm became a haunting chant. Silas stood in the mud, his eyes fixed on Bartholomew, who read each result with a voice that grew hoarse and rhythmic in the London dark. "The hours are long, Silas," Elspeth said, her voice weary as the cathedral clock chimed another midnight. They had heard 1,000 names called, followed by the word blank. The dream of silver plate and tapestries seemed to be dissolving like the mist over the river. Silas held her hand, his thumb tracing the edges of his now crumpled ticket. Suddenly, a roar erupted from the crowd that shook the very stones of the cathedral. Bartholomew held a shimmering silver salt cellar high above his head, the metal gleaming in the firelight. A woman named Marjorie, a widow from Cheapside, was swept forward by the guards. Her face was a mask of disbelief as she reached out to claim a prize, worth more than 10 years of labor. The lottery eventually ended, and for Silas, the jar had held only a blank. He looked at his ticket one last time before letting it slip from his fingers into the churned earth of the churchyard. As the sun began to rise over the spire of St. Paul's, he turned away with Elspeth. They had lost their silver, but they walked together into the light of a new day, their lives unchanged but their spirits finally at rest.